or not some prompt from you, Jordan Klein. All I want to do is talk about basketball. And boy, oh boy, can you do that on a 14 game slate. What is up, everybody? NBA Strategy Show, Wednesday, November 8th. I am Josh Engleman. I am joined by Adam Scherer. We are brought to you by Vivid Picks. We will absolutely talk about them in a bit. Sorry to everybody in the Bet365 streets. If you're in Kentucky, I can't shame you on a day-to-day basis any longer. Well, I still can, but it would seem a little aggressive now. Anyway, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, follow us both on Twitter. Hope you guys enjoyed the day off of NBA yesterday. I did. I got myself into the hockey streets. That didn't go well. I'm not mad about it, but it didn't. The results were poor, and I think the results were also poor for my co-host here, Adam Scherer. Adam, what's up?
Yeah, they weren't good. College football wasn't great either. So, yeah, I enjoyed my day off, but kind of wish we'd had basketball. I guess I would have played those anyway and just lost more money probably. So,
yeah, I would have just lost it in a different sport.
I would have lost it in an extra sport.
Yeah, there you go. We have a ton to talk about. Massive slate, 14 games. Only 2 of them tip off at 10 o'clock. Honestly, the NBA made a mistake, or DraftKings made a mistake. The main slate should be done at 8:30. Call it 12. Don't include those 10 o'clock games and just be done with it. That would have actually been a little bit more manageable. Unfortunately, that's not the case. So, how that spread is only 2 points for Miami is crazy. I don't know why that would be crazy, but sure. Miami stinks. Look, Desmond Bane plus Jaren Jackson isn't all that different than whatever 2 people you like Butler and Bam in the regular season, but that's going to cause a lot of trouble when I say it out loud. You want to just break this down? I don't have anything else to talk about to start.
Yeah, I'm ready. Ish.
The Washington Wizards are 3-point dogs in Charlotte, 241 total. The first 2 games we talk about have 240 totals. Everything else is under 230. So we get out of it real quick. For this one, for Washington, God, I am so tired of this team already. Everybody that's normally available this is clearly a really nice spot for fantasy. It just so happens that everybody for Washington stinks. 14% ownership coming into a $4,900 Daniel Gafford. That price is not correct. 16% ownership coming into a $7,500 Kyle Kuzma. I like both of those guys. I don't want much else other than maybe a little Tyus Jones.
Yeah, feel like I'm a little higher, I guess, on Tyus Jones, but I'm with you. Kuzma and Gafford both look very good. 4,900 for Gafford in this spot is really appealing. Obviously he wasn't popular the other day against the Sixers. He had like 800 blocks against Joel Embiid. You're not expecting him to replicate that performance, and that's not why he looks like a good play today. It has nothing to do with his performance against Embiid, but the playing time should be there for him. At a $4,900 price tag, you have a favorable game environment, favorable matchup. You don't have the same amount of, at least right now, center value that you had the other day. That's another reason he was so low owned, is on that slate you had Goga and Bagley at the same price getting all the ownership. So different slate, different matchup, same pretty favorable price tag for Gafford. 14% ownership, 14% chance of being optimal. I'd be at around 26% if the slate started right now. So I'd be around 2x the field there. Kuzma coming in at 16%, 16% chance of being optimal. I'm like 3x the field on him, getting about 40% on DraftKings. I don't have any issue with that whatsoever. Yeah. Both those guys look really good. Tyus Jones showing up around 20% for me, so I'm like 2x the field on him as well. Those are pretty much the Wizards I'm getting to. I do also, even on DraftKings, have 10% Jordan Poole at 7,400. I think that's the first time this season that I've actually been getting him on DraftKings. He's been much more of a FanDuel play so far, but good game environment, reasonable price tag for somebody that's going to go out there and look to call his own number a lot. I have 6% Denny, which is still 2x the field. So I'm right now overweight on this Washington team, all of the starters.
I'm not. I'm only over on Kuzma. I have some Gafford. I'm not surprised that I don't have a ton more of Gafford. It's just 14-game slate with centers. There are a million of them. I happen to really like the one on the opposite side of this game, and we're going to talk about him in a second. But yeah, like Tyus Jones got 32 and a half minutes this most recent game. If he's going to start playing like north of 30 in a competitive game, I think he really starts to look interesting. The Wizards have played 17 dudes so far this season. They've played 6 games. They're ass, man. It's so bad. It's so bad.
They haven't even been that hurt. I mean, like, you had, Gafford missed times. You got like the Muscala start, but and you got the Coulibaly start, but like It's not like we've had a game yet where it's just like, oh, they're down 3 guys.
No, they just stink.
They are very bad.
They just stink. Negative. Do you know how bad they like really are?
I imagine it's very, very bad, but no.
So per cleaning the glass, and this point differential factors out garbage time. So, lots of that for the Wiz. The 29th ranked team in point differential is the Utah Jazz at minus 9.4. The Wizards, dead last, minus 15.6.
That is impressive.
That's tough to do. They are 6 points worse than the next worst team.
Congrats to Charlotte on only being a 3-point favorite at home.
Well, they are going to be without Terry Rozier, which makes things kind of tough. No James Bouknight, no Miles Bridges, no Cody Martin, no Frank Ntilikina, but Rozier is the big piece. Lots of ownership coming into this team, and it should. $8,900 price tag on LaMelo Ball. He's 45% owned, and if those 39 minutes he played in their most recent game are any indication, you can go ahead and feel pretty good about 45% ownership. 27% coming into Gordon Hayward. 22 coming into PJ Washington, but there's no ownership coming into two dudes that I like. 5% right now to Brandon Miller, who got the start on Monday with no Terry Rozier. 3% to Mark Williams at 6,100. I have my eye on in a really big way for this particular matchup. I think you just have to have a lot of Charlotte.
So we're sort of on opposite sides here. And it's not that I disagree with you. Like, I don't think Charlotte's good. If the slate started right now, I'm even with the field on LaMelo at, about 46%. No problem with that. If you wanted to play more Melo, I think that's fine. But I do think in your larger field tournaments, you do start to just run into the issue of like, at some point, the additional LaMelo lineups, how valuable are they when half the field has him? Like if he smashes, those extra 5 LaMelo lineups you have are very unlikely to really make any sort of difference. So that's sort of, I think you could make the case where you get more. Obviously, you can make the case for getting less just because he's 45% owned. But for me, coming in around the field on him, I think I like that, where he is clearly one of the best plays. Not only is he one of the highest, upside plays in a great game, but he actually projects as one of the best point per dollar plays on this slate at 8,900. So that's why you're seeing so much ownership there. It's not just the upside, but from a point per dollar median standpoint, he just looks that good. So I'm getting around the field there. I'm getting around the field with 28% Gordon Hayward, 6,600 small forward, power forward. Looks like a good play. Other than that, though, PJ Washington getting 22% ownership. This is somebody that I've been getting a lot of this year, but I'm actually not today. Only getting around 6% right now. Now, again, that's something that certainly could change by lock. There's nothing like definitively wrong with PJ Washington or any specific reason I'm not getting there. It's just that, we've already talked about a couple of relatively popular pieces on Washington that I'm getting a lot of. We just talked about LaMelo and Hayward that I'm getting a lot of. PJ Washington's a popular piece that I'm kind of funneling out. And I think it's just that there are alternatives around him that I'm able to get to. I'm not getting to Mark Williams. I'm not getting to Brandon Miller. I think either of them are perfectly fine from the sense of, yeah, they're not the best price tag, but this is likely to be a very high scoring game. There's going to be a lot of fantasy points. For me, it's just kind of, I'm getting to the Washington side of it. For you, you're getting to the entire Charlotte side. I think it's kind of the same thing, just, different names.
Yeah, for sure. I'm also not getting to PJ Washington, which surprised me a bit, but yeah, 3% ownership projected to Mark Williams. I have 24. I think he looks amazing today. Yeah. And I only went 28 minutes. So it's not like I went crazy on a projection or anything, but he's 1.15 in my model, 1.16 fantasy points per minute on the season. But in this matchup, fantasy points per minute is a little deceptive. This is the fastest paced game of the day. I have him projected for the game at like 1.25 because there are so many more possessions in this game. And that's what's making me think like at 3%, it's only Gafford on the opposite side. I'm in for that.
Yeah. And one thing to clarify too, I said I didn't really know for sure why I wasn't getting PJ Washington. Every strategy show, there's like one cheap guy that's showing up a lot for me that isn't going to be there. Today, it is Jabari Walker showing up like 22%. He's power forward center. So there is a pretty good chance when we do get to, good power forward or center plays, if I'm not getting to them, it's because of the random Jabari Walker shares I'm getting that I'm just not going to have by lock or won't have as much of by lock. So that could be impacting PJ Washington a bit as well. When I look at the centers, kind of trying to gauge why I'm not getting Mark Williams, because I agree with you that he is a good play. I think it's just sort of I'm going cheaper or I'm going more expensive for the most part. Yeah. Daniel Gafford right now would be my highest owned center. He's $1,200 less. Next is Embiid. Then you get Jabari Walker. Next is Jokic. Next is Giannis. Then it gets to like Naz Reid, Miles Turner, DeAndre Ayton. But it seems like at center, I'm kind of either going to Gafford or I'm paying up.
Fair enough. And then for Brandon Miller, 5,800, small forward, power forward, stepped into the starting lineup for Terry Rozier. He's played multiple games of 30 plus minutes, even with Rozier in. So the minutes feel really good. He's $800. Look, he's $800 cheaper than Gordon Hayward and like 1/5 to 1/6 the ownership. Should Brandon Miller be a worse per minute dude than Gordon Hayward right now? Yeah, probably. He's a rookie playing like his 7th game, but at 5% ownership, it like he's also playing another team that is barely NBA players. So Brandon Miller might stand out a little bit more. Could be a bit of a coming out party. Love him at 5% for GPPs.
Yeah, I'm not getting to him, but I agree with everything you said. Also working in your favor, I played like 60% of him last slate when he scored like half a fantasy point per minute or something. So should rebound with a big game here. But no, I like the play, in theory. Like everything you said makes sense. I think that at 5% owned in this game, he makes a lot of sense. I am not getting to him. I am getting to Hayward. They do project, a bit differently. So far this year, 3/4 of a fantasy point per minute for Miller, 1.1 for Hayward. But, just from a range of outcome standpoint and the guy has played 2 weeks in the NBA standpoint and he's playing the Wizards, like you easily could get a big Brandon Miller game here at very little ownership.
All right. I actually got 9% to Teo Maledon. I don't have much to add there. 3,800, just a value piece. We're going to have so much value by the time this slate is over that I assume that just like comes out in the wash.
Yeah, I didn't get there. It probably all went to Jabari Walker.
Probably. Anything else here for Charlotte? Hell of a game to start.
No, I feel like we can just end the show now because how that game goes is going to be the slate.
Well, 244 total in this one, actually higher than the Wizards and Hornets. At least it was this morning. The Jazz are 6.5 point dogs in Indiana, 244 total for this one. Jazz, we have a Q tag on Walker Kessler, which is going to somehow make Indiana look even better if Kessler happens to sit. Otherwise, everybody else for Utah is available. No real ownership coming in here. It's just kind of like scattered-ish. Around 10% to Clarkson, around 10% to Olynyk, around 10% to THT. I think Jordan Clarkson is the best guy that you can get to from Utah, but I only have 16%. There's just like nobody's just a crazy awesome play.
Yeah, the pricing is just kind of where it should be on most of these guys. THT is the guy I'm getting to the most, which I don't love because it's THT, but $5,600 shooting guard in a good spot. I'm getting 2x the field on him. I'm right around the field on Clarkson at 6,200. So those are the two Utah guys that I am getting to the most. I don't really have, a very small amount of Olynyk. That would look better if Kessler's out probably. But Horton Tucker, Clarkson, the two that I'm getting to.
Yeah, I don't really have it either.
I'm with the field on John Collins, or I have 8% John Collins, so I'm like 2x the field, but it's pretty much Clark's. Horton Tucker's the guy that I'm over the field on, and then I'm with the field on Clarkson, Olynyk, Collins.
Keontae George closed the second quarter against the Bulls over THT. I don't think that they're all that fond of THT in this moment, and I think they are quite fond of Keontae George, so don't be surprised to see that flip.
He also, THT got benched at the beginning of the third quarter, too.
Yep, sure did. So keep your eye on Keontae George, 3,821 minutes. Like, could easily just be my replacement Teo Maledon. It's hard for anybody in those situations to look great today because we just have such a volume of plays. But I do want to point that out. They are more likely to give Keontae George minutes than THT minutes if they want to like move the shit around. And then we go to the Indiana side, I guess.
So rephrase it. They're not more likely to give Keontae George minutes than THT. But you're saying
not today.
Right. If they start switching things up, that's the place it probably happens.
Yeah. Like they want him to be their guard of the future, not Talen Horton Tucker. When that happens, who the hell knows? Might be already happening. Single digit ownership from top to bottom for the Pacers, except for $5,200 Bruce Brown on FanDuel, where he's 22% owned. There's basically like, I'm happy to get to the Pacers, but they don't play anybody real minutes. Like Halliburton, 9,800, 9% owned. I'll take any bit of Halliburton I can get in this spot because he's great, but I don't have much. Miles Turner for 7K today, 9% owned. Like, yeah, is Miles Turner a great play in this spot? Absolutely. But there's a million of him today. So, like, I don't have a lot of volume to Indiana, even though I really wish I did. I don't know how you go to anybody else because they all play 25 minutes a game. Who the hell is it going to be?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, if you're going to the other pieces, I think it's just game environment and you're hoping things go well. But I'm pretty much in line with the field on Halliburton, Turner, Bruce Brown. Love getting to Halliburton where you can, but his price tag has jumped to 9,800 on DraftKings, and on this particular slate, that's problematic because it's $900 more than LaMelo Ball in a great spot. And even last game for Halliburton, he got off to a really good start, ended up being disappointing from a fantasy standpoint because that game just got out of hand. The Pacers won by like 41 points. But he only played like 16 and a half minutes in the first half. There's going to be games where he plays 37, but you can't count on that every night. So in tournaments at 9% looks fine. I'm getting around 12%. That's actually the optimal percentage we have on him as well. I'm getting 10% Miles Turner at 9% owned. I'm getting 8% Bruce Brown at 7%. I have like 10% Obi Toppin right now at 4%. That easily could just go away as the day goes on, but it's just a $4,300 power forward in a good game, and you're hoping things work out. Did play 27 minutes in 3/4 last game. So, there is a path to him getting minutes, but really, I think it's a team that is just more difficult to get to than Charlotte, more difficult to get to than Washington. But the plus side to that is you can use them in specific lineups to say, okay, my contrarian play is this guy that's really good at basketball in the case of like Halliburton or Turner, and less than 10% owned in a game with a 244 total.
Yeah, I wish I had more of this. 10% of Turner is the most I got of anybody, but I'm just scattered. I also have 7% top and minutes creeping up. I don't know what they're going to do there, but let's see it. Let's see it. I got nothing else here.
Oh, I'll also just mention it. I don't have a lot of them right now. I had a lot the other day, but
I know where we're going. Yeah,
Jalen Smith's just sitting at $4,100 on DraftKings.
Yeah,
with power forward eligibility. Whenever he's not getting ownership, especially in a good game environment, I do like taking shots there. He's just the backup to Miles Turner. He did lose a stint or part of his playing time last game because of fouls in the first quarter, but he's a very good point per minute guy. He's typically going to give you, 16, 17, 18 minutes behind Turner. And anytime Turner gets in foul trouble, you're getting more. So he's just at a price tag right now where even if he plays 18 minutes, you're probably getting like, 5 to 6x your salary, which isn't what you're really looking for at 4,100, but it's, at least serviceable. But any time that he either just plays better than usual or Turner gets in foul trouble, you suddenly just have a 2% owned center that scores like 1.25 fantasy points per minute at power forward and no ownership.
I have 5%, so I'm happy.
Yeah, I have like 6, which I'm much happier with than the 40 I had the other day.
The best game that you can watch today is probably this one. There's only one other option. Boston Celtics 2.5-point favorites in Philadelphia, 227 total, and Boston is at full strength because Derek White is probable. Philly is also at full strength. The problem here is that the highest owned guy on DK is 2% to Drew Holiday. I will take any bid of White, Brown, Tatum, Holiday, or Porzingis that shows up in my lineup, but they did not show up in my lineups.
Yeah, you see this all the time in NBA DFS. The best games from a basketball standpoint are typically pretty shitty games from a DFS standpoint because you have two good teams playing against each other. I'm not getting much of anything. My highest owned guy from Boston is 2% owned Drew Holiday. So yeah, I got one guy from Boston.
I got 1% of Jaylen Brown and 1% of Drew.
Yeah.
Can't do anything else there, but I want to watch this.
I don't, but
on the Philly side, only guy getting any ownership, 6% to Joel Embiid, which looks totally fine to me at 11K, but we also have Nikola Jokic on this slate that we'll need to talk about. And that'll be one piece of this. Giannis, I guess, too. I don't really know how you get to much Philly. I like the price. I don't mind getting to an $8,200 Tyrese Maxey, but boy, oh boy, is he going to have a unfun night of defensive matchups.
Yeah, the only spot from Philly I'm getting to is Embiid. And I kind of mentioned that earlier. I do like it. I'm getting 22% Embiid right now. Now, that certainly could come down when my Jabari Walker problem goes away. But the flip side is that we're just going to end up with value today anyway, with there being 14 games. So I'm pretty sure that you're going to be able to get to an 11K Embiid if you want to get to an 11K Embiid. And I do like getting there. We've talked about it a lot. The assists for him are up. Obviously, he's coming off a game where he probably would have scored 100 fantasy points against Washington if he had needed to. But he's at a point now where, yes, it's early in the season and things are going to change and, flatten out from a fantasy standpoint in general. But it's likely that like I buy into this version of Embiid, the guy that's actually passing and getting assists and getting assist opportunities, because not only is Harden gone, which clearly would have an impact, but you do have you have Nick Nurse there now instead of Doc Rivers. I do think it's completely plausible that they've said, hey, like maybe you should pass out of double teams and get some assists and, be more effective that way. So you've seen it translate to increased fantasy production because it's not cutting into his usage. He's still getting his shots, but then he's also just getting assist opportunities, which is really nice. So you've seen around 1.75 fantasy points per minute from him so far this season. That's in line with what we get from like Jokic on a regular basis. So if you buy into the increased assist numbers, now I'm not saying that he's suddenly going to be Jokic from a playmaking standpoint, but if you buy into the increased assist numbers for Embiid, you are essentially getting an 11K Nikola Jokic from a fantasy standpoint at 5% owned. And yes, the matchup is shit, but it's still a really good player at basically no ownership.
Yeah, I got the 7%, but I would not mind having a little bit more as we go on. And I wouldn't mind shares of Maxey. It's just not going to happen. I don't see what else you can get to here from Philly.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean, outside of getting to Embiid, it's just, I think I have like a Maxey lineup. I have a Melton lineup.
Yeah.
There's nothing really else to talk about. I have a Tobias Harris lineup.
I think there's one other thing you could talk about. NBA Treat is the promo code, $4.99 for the lineup generator. That is what we've got going on for you guys right now. I think this is going to be the best promo that exists for the large majority of people that are watching or listening to this show. So listen up, folks. Click the link in the description or the link that pops up in chat. You get the lineup generator for a week for $4.99. We generate thousands and thousands of lineups on the back end. We ditch the ones that stink. We present the rest to you. Click save if you like it. Click discard if you don't. Another one pops right up. Chalky builds, contrarian builds, balanced builds. You could lock a player in. You could swap players around if you want. Export up to 20 via CSV. It's, to me, the best bang for your buck tool that we have is this lineup generator. $4.99 to get in the door and check it out for a week. No doubt about it. You guys should take advantage of it. Worst case scenario, you hate it. You're out $4.99. Cancel it anytime. It's going to be fine. All right. Let's go to the LA Clippers. 4.5-point favorites in Brooklyn, 229 total. We got 31 minutes out of James Harden in the opener. There's no ownership coming into the Clippers. I don't see how you roster anybody, but we do need to talk about Ivica Zubac. Played 30 minutes on the 6th. Mason Plumlee going to be out for a while with a sprained MCL. What they do at backup center, if anything, and how that impacts Ivica Zubac's minutes is the only talking point for the Clippers.
Yeah, and I mean, for this slate, I don't know that it matters that much. You got 30 minutes last game. Plumlee got hurt in the second half. Zubac immediately subbed back in. Behind him, they went to Diabate for like 2 minutes, and then Zubac came back. So I do think it's likely that you see, substantial playing time for Ivica Zubac. We know he can play big minutes. We know that they like Zubac. I don't think they're going to be going out of their way to like find somebody to take minutes away from Zubac. So I do think he plays more minutes here. At 5,900, it does make him not owned at all. You can make like a Mark Williams case for him, I think, where he's just low owned, he's good, and not as good from a point per minute standpoint as Williams, but could just play way more minutes than he's being projected for right now, since we don't really know how that's going to go. But on a slate, where there's 14 games and a ton of centers, it's still not a spot that I expect to be getting too much.
That went 28 minutes. I think 30 is very live too. I think PJ Tucker soaks up some of that stuff at center. Musa Diabate probably has to sneak his way into the lineup a little bit now too.
Right.
We'll see what they end up doing.
My concern, I do think he plays substantial minutes. But my concern is just that it's always different when you get an injury mid-game versus you have time to game plan for it and be ready. You could just very easily see them change up rotations. So, PJ Tucker is the backup center, and that's something they'd probably be fine with. So, I don't think if they guaranteed that they just kind of did the same thing they did last game, I would be like, wow, Zubac might play 36 minutes or 38 minutes. Cause they're not going to just have Diabate out there as a true backup center, but I think it's likely you just get the rotations changed up and you get PJ Tucker as the primary backup center now.
I think so too. I've said it on the process show, and I'm going to say it again here. Get ready. It's completely irrelevant for what this slate is, but get ready. Bones Highland is going to leave this rotation very, very quickly and not see the floor for the Clippers. So
Yeah.
that is going to happen in the near future. It is not relevant. By the way, Terrence Mann is questionable today too. So like it's even worse. If Mann is back, don't be surprised to see Bones just park it.
And if Mann is back, it also becomes even easier to limit Zubac's minutes if you want to. Just because you have another guard.
Yeah, absolutely. All told, don't play Kawhi or James Harden or Paul George or Russ with any sort of volume because obviously that's a tough one to peg down.
Yeah, it's going to be their prices already started to drop slightly, but it's going to be a while, I think, before you can play those guys on any sort of normal size slate.
Yeah.
It's like
I mean, honestly, it's going to be basically impossible to play those guys on a normal size slate unless one guy is out.
Or unless they just nerf the pricing.
Yeah, which at the rate DraftKings has been going has not been happening.
Right. They're like a more annoying version of Boston.
Yeah.
Like Boston, you have trouble getting to those guys because it's like, well, Tatum's expensive, and normally he's going to be taking shots away from Brown and Holiday and Porzingis, but sometimes he won't, and then they're good plays. Here, it's just like, well, they're all expensive.
The Brooklyn side of this one, we should be pretty comfortable with at this point. They don't really deviate. Nick Claxton out, Cam Johnson doubtful. So it's the same thing we're normally getting. Big minutes for a very small amount of guys, and then no one else getting anything. 6% ownership to Cam Thomas is the high mark. I don't have much from Brooklyn because their prices are also stable, but I actually do like Cam Thomas for 7K. Point guard, shooting guard, 6%. He is the dude I'm getting.
Yeah, I mean, the playing time has been nice too, coming off a 40-minute game last time out. But that being said, I'm not really getting to any of it. The field is getting to Cam Thomas at 6%. That's the most anybody's getting to Brooklyn. That's the most anybody on Brooklyn is getting. I have like 4%. So, in the same ballpark on Cam Thomas, not getting to anything else, I don't think.
I have 7% of Bridges, which I'll
I have 4% Bridges, 4% O'Neal.
Yeah, same. There's nobody that jumps off, but I think Cam Thomas is like, that works for me. He's going to shoot.
Yeah. And like that for most of the season, Ben Simmons has been the best play on Brooklyn. But when you take away his small forward eligibility, he becomes much, much less appealing.
Yeah, very difficult to get to. Just an ugly game all around. Brooklyn gets James Harden coming back to Brooklyn with a gaggle of just like Hall of Fame NBA players. And the most interesting thing in New York tonight is not that game. We go to MSG, Spurs 9.5-point dogs in New York, Wemby to New York. People aren't even going to show up in Brooklyn for that bullshit now that Wemby is in New York. For the Spurs, we have probable tag on Keldon Johnson, doubtful tag on Devin Vassell. 4% ownership to Malachi Branham is the high mark. If you like Zach Collins as a center, he can be there. I assume we get to none of the Spurs.
Yeah, I'm not getting there. Just not a particularly appealing game. Price tags on them are pretty much where they should be, if not a little bit too high. I'm getting to I'm not even really getting to Zach Collins. I have like a Zach Collins lineup. I have a Charles Bassey lineup at 3,200. Just not getting to this team. No, I like that we at least had that Charlotte game first. So we didn't just start off the show by being like, I hate every team for like 40 minutes, but now we're into the portion of the show where I hate every team.
Yeah, I don't really see a path to anybody here. I really don't.
That is also my analysis for the Knicks.
Malachi Branham is right at 4% ownership. That's the best thing I could say here.
Yeah, and it's just hard because like we haven't gotten to the Pistons yet, but the Pistons play today.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Knicks side actually getting a little bit of love from an ownership perspective.
Who?
Mitchell Robinson. Knicks.
Oh, Knicks side. I thought you said it Nick side, like a name. I'm like, I know I'm not caught up on all the random rotation guys at this point, but who the hell is that?
Now, the New York Knicks side of this game, 19% ownership coming into Mitchell Robinson at 5,300, 10% to Randall at 8,100. Like, I'm getting to that ownership for Mitchell Robinson too, but eating Mitchell Robinson chalk on this kind of slate just feels so wildly unappealing, even though he is a really nice point per dollar play.
Yeah, it's just the same thing where it's a 14-game slate. $5,300 price tag on Mitchell Robinson's nice. I think the ownership is what's scaring me away right now. I'm not getting anywhere near the field there. I mentioned it earlier that I am getting Jabari Walker, probably taking some of those spots. That'll go away. Robinson looks like a good point per dollar value. He is coming in a bit overowned, 19% ownership on DraftKings, 11% chance of being optimal. So, like I'd said before, I'm getting the Gafford as a relatively popular center. And then generally I'm paying up at the position. So that's an approach that I'm fine with. It's not like a right or wrong approach. If you're not getting as, I'm getting 22% Embiid, the field's at 6%. If you're getting around the field on Embiid, you have plenty more room to get to Mitchell Robinson, which is perfectly fine, and pay up elsewhere. But I'm getting to Embiid. I'm also getting to Jokic. So that's costing me some Mitchell Robinson.
I know the prices are a little different, but like just when I see this kind of stuff and we do it, if there's 20% ownership to Mitchell Robinson and none to Mark Williams, I'd love to have 10 and 10. Like it's just, those are the little things where that's how I want it to balance out. I hope it does it when it does it in the end, because that just makes more sense to me.
Yeah, I think that's a very reasonable way to do it. I think, just not to say it's not reasonable to just like be playing a very good point per dollar Mitchell Robinson. Yeah. But like the way you said is reasonable. I have no problem with my approach right now, where I'm basically playing I'm over the field on Gafford, and then I'm just saying I'm just trying to like bludgeon everybody at the center position. And you can go get your nice 6x 31 fantasy points from Mitchell Robinson. I'm going to take my 70 from Joel Embiid, and you can enjoy your flame emoji and finishing in like 800th place. I think it's a very reasonable approach as well.
There's 70 out there for Nikola Jokic too when we get to game 13.
I wonder if I have any lineups. I doubt it.
I mean, you could there's enough value on a slate like today where you can get lineups.
Yeah, I don't have it right now. Maybe
that's a very difficult construction.
Yeah, like half of my Joel Embiid lineups have Daniel Gafford.
There's a lot of guard value that makes that more plausible today too, which helps.
Yeah.
But yeah, Randall and Robinson, if you want some Brunson, go for it. But there's just not a lot here for the Knicks.
Yeah, I'm not getting the Randall either, but perfectly fine. 10% owned. Probably somewhat running into the Jabari Walker issue there. Same thing I talked about with PJ Washington. Good matchup. $8,100 price tag is solid enough for Randall. 10% chance of being optimal, 10% ownership. Usually I would expect to be just around the field on him. So I am getting like 4% instead of 10, but again, I'm going to be losing some of that Jabari Walker also.
All righty. Let's go to Phoenix. 1-point dogs in Chicago, 221 total. Hard to talk about this one right now. No ownership coming in anywhere to the Phoenix Suns. Straight zero up and down the board. But if we talk about Phoenix, we need to know one thing. Devin Booker is out. Bradley Beal is questionable. $7,100 point guard, shooting guard. We obviously need to know like what he can do, what kind of minutes he would be playing. 30 minutes of Bradley Beal at 7,100 and against the Bulls isn't like outlandish. I wouldn't mind it. I have 0 of the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, I have none right now. And that's with Beal projected in. Like if Beal's out, obviously Durant's going to look better. Nurk is going to look a little bit better. But as is right now, I'm not getting to any of it. And I agree with you. If Beal is in and not heavily restricted, 7,100 is a reasonable price tag. The problem is just that it's a 14-game slate. So you can find, like right now we have Beal projected for no ownership. Cool. That's interesting at 7,100. You can find plenty of guys that are like 5% owned in this price range that are not on, that are not playing their first game of the season and are healthy and are also good. So there's just going to be so many guys in this price range on a 14-game slate that you probably just don't need to worry about Bradley Beal.
Yeah. Like if they're like Bradley Beal isn't limited, I think you kind of got to get to some Bradley Beal, point guard, shooting guard, 7,100. I don't expect that message to come out. I expect us to hear like minutes will be monitored. And I have a hard time saying that he's playing more than 30 today. They just don't give a shit about this game. Like They need Bradley Beal to be healthy in April.
Yeah. And the other thing too, this had come out, people were complaining about the Suns like already doing load management in the season. And one of the Suns beat writers just like lost his mind about it. He was like, you're talking about Devin Booker and Bradley Beal. Like, nothing about these guys if you think that they are just not like, they don't want to play. So like, that's the other thing is like Beal's injury is pretty clearly legitimate given that he missed this many games and the dude wanted to be out there.
With a new team, like finally out of Washington.
Like, this is not how he wanted
title contender.
Right. He didn't just like finally get out of Washington, get the Phoenix and show up and be like, hey guys, it's the first week of the season. If you want to just like let me chill and not play, that's cool.
People are nuts, man. Nuts. Sorry, dumb. That's the word I was looking for. Thank God it's a 14 game slate so that I don't have to have as much of Chicago, but I would like to once again have Chicago, whether that's $7,500 Zach LaVine with the shooting guard small forward MPE, $7,400 Vooch, a little bit of DeRozan. Patrick Williams is getting 3% ownership. He's a point per dollar play. Torrey Craig starts. He's 3,800, but I'm 2x the field on LaVine, 2x the field on Vooch. Seems to just happen every single day.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Not much ownership coming in. 7% to Vooch, 7% to LaVine, 5 to DeRozan. I am not getting too much of them at all. It doesn't look like, unless I'm just not seeing them. But if anything, I'm probably around. Yeah, I'm under the field on LaVine. I am not getting to Vooch. Yeah, I'm not really getting to this Bulls team. I think any of those main three are perfectly good contrarian plays, but they're just not the ones I'm getting to. And to answer Omar's question in chat about why I have that, he said Jabari Smith. I wish it was Jabari Smith. Jabari Walker, probably some version of the Jabari Walker problem every morning. It's just an early set of projections and ownership. Like if anything isn't perfectly tuned in, dialed in, like some players projected a little bit higher than they're going to be later in the day, or their ownership is not in line with their projection, they just start showing up for me a ton. Whereas once we have more data and everything gets finalized, that goes away and I start losing that guy. So it's that, like, if the information we have right now is what we had at lock, I would be playing a lot of him, but it's going to change.
Yep. I have nothing else for the Bulls.
Agreed. Actually, Patrick Williams is the guy that I'm getting the most of. 3,600, like 10%.
Yeah, I have 5%. I would prefer that just doesn't exist.
That could very easily go away by lock. Probably will go away by lock.
The Los Angeles Lakers are 2.5 point favorites in Houston, 218 total. 13% ownership coming into Austin Reeves, shooting guard, small forward, 5,800. I got the 8% there. I would not mind any $9,900 Anthony Davis. That would be a totally reasonable price tag for him, especially given the minutes. Although I hope he doesn't have a lightning bolt to the penis or whatever the hell the gimmick was from Shams on Monday. But I don't really want anything else here. This game definitely feels like the LeBron is on a 30-minute limit game, if we want to talk about that. I don't think this is a national TV game, but LeBron on the road in Houston definitely feels like if they're ever going to pump the brakes on his minutes, this is the one they do it. I also think that he's just going to play normal minutes forever because coaches and everybody are liars, but this would be the one I would go to. I don't want to play LeBron all that much. I don't really want to play anybody all that much.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not nerfing LeBron or anything. Like, I just assume he's going to play his minutes because coaches lie all the time. But he's getting 6% ownership. I have 8%. Perfectly cool with that. Anthony Davis getting 2.5% ownership. I have like 6%. So, over the field, but still not a very important part of my night. No problem there. He looks good. Austin Reeves, 10%. That's the guy I'm getting the most of from this team. Shooting guard, small forward is nice. Obviously, he's just a good basketball player. Like, he has, you saw it last year, just much better, I think, than anticipated. So happy to get to him where I can at 5,800. He is pretty much correctly owned, 14% chance of being optimal, 13% ownership. So yeah, that's who I'm getting the most of from the Lakers. Russell's 0.2% ownership. I'm not getting there, but if you got a little bit, that would be fine. Reeves looks like the easiest guy to get to, and then obviously whatever Anthony Davis and LeBron James you get to looks good.
On the Houston side, no ownership coming in with any sort of volume. We do have one talking point for Houston, and that is we got a return finally for this Houston Rockets team. Tari Eason is probable, an actual good basketball player. Still don't have Victor Oladipo. I don't think he's going to be making it back anytime soon. 8% ownership coming into a flat 3K Tari Eason. It's a problem. He's not going to play more than like 16 minutes, so he shouldn't exist by the end of today, but he does in this particular moment. Everybody else is around 5% ownership. I got to 11 of Jalen Green, a couple shares of Fred VanVleet. You get some Dylan Brooks, 5,600 against LeBron. He should be extra annoying today. Feel free to play Şengün if you want. I like the little pieces of Houston, but there are no priorities here.
Yeah, it kind of looks like Chicago did. Like, it looks like a lot of teams that we've had so far. Şengün, VanVleet, Green, Smith, Dylan Brooks. We know that these guys all can very easily exceed their salaries. None of these guys are over 8K. Şengün was on his way to a massive game last time out, but the Kings couldn't keep up. You get really, really high ceilings from these guys, but they're also pretty much correctly priced from a median standpoint. That keeps their ownership down. It makes them great pieces to fit into a lineup to be your contrarian guy where, you have 5 guys that you're building around and are relatively popular. You throw in Şengün, you throw in Van Vliet, hope they have a big game. But they're not core pieces, key pieces. They're not guys that I really happen to be getting to as far as contrarian plays go. For example, like right now, I have 2% Van Vliet. I have 10% Jordan Poole. They're kind of the same play. I just happen to have Jordan Poole instead.
Yeah, I got 11 of Jalen Green, 7 of Van Vliet, 5 of Şengün, 6 of Tari Eason.
Yeah, I think 6% Jalen Green is my highest owned guy from Houston right now.
Yeah. He's up to 0.86 fantasy points per minute. Climbing.
Yeah.
Climbing.
But yeah, like this is another one of those teams where like my exposures shouldn't, your exposures, my exposures, like they're not important to like the story of this slate. They could triple and with like the same information, you could kind of like run all of your sims and stuff again, and they're just higher because it's just a matter of like how they showed up versus other 5% owned guys that are projected about the same.
I don't have anything else here.
No.
It
feels like a better DFS game than it is.
Yeah, it does. I'm going Şengün over Green tonight with AD potentially being out. Anthony Davis is questionable for tonight. So he will also probably be questionable for 55 games this year. Could he be out? Yes. Am I assuming he's out? No. If he ends up out, fire up your Christian Woods.
But I didn't see what you were reading.
It was a ninja choke in chat.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I'm not an ADQ tag at 10 o'clock in the morning that should just permanently exist.
Yeah. And to kind of just touch on what Stephen Leibowitz said too, I obviously agree Anthony Davis can outscore the other highest price centers, but let's not pretend that he is in the same category as Jokic and Embiid. Anthony Davis this year, 1.4 DraftKings points per minute. He is great. And again, like obviously he can go score 70 fantasy points and beat those guys, but it's not really a comparison. Like Jokic and Embiid are 1.7, 1.75 fantasy point per minute guys. Davis, as good as he is 1.4.
We got a couple people asking, what is Vivid Picks? You guys like them pick'em sites, guys. It's the new. It's what everybody wants. I smash Prize Picks regularly. You probably haven't signed up at Vivid Picks yet. Now you should do it. Link in the description of this video. All you're doing is predicting whether players are going to have more or less than their projected stats across multiple sports. Combine them if you want for bigger payouts. Their normal deposit match bonus is $100. If you're using our link, that can go up to $300. So you put in $300, they'll match with $300. You don't want to sleep on those types of deals, guys. Anytime that you can just soak up free money, you should take advantage of it when you can. Your first entry on Vivid Picks also comes with a $25 secure play. So if your first entry loses, you'll get it refunded up to $25 in Vivid site credit. So up to $300 in free money based on your first deposit. A covered bet of $25 on your first play. What's not to like here, guys? We'll be talking about him a lot lately or in the near future, but this deal, 300 to get 300 plus a secure play, there aren't really better deals out there at any of these other pick'em sites. Take advantage right now at Vivid Picks while you can, because I'm guessing you haven't been there yet, and you should be. I'm giving out great Prize Picks plays on a daily basis. Check them out on Vivid Picks as well. What state is this legal in? Maine, Alaska, North Dakota? That's good, Bug Boy. I can handle that one. The Miami Heat, 2-point favorites in Memphis, 218 total. 7% ownership coming into Jimmy Butler is the high mark for Miami. I'm going to assume we don't get the same Bam Adebayo game that we got on Monday. Ooh, baby, did he go crazy.
Did he even end up in the winning lineup?
No. Joel Embiid did.
Yeah, that's what happens when you are 0.16% owned.
Well, Jokic outscored Embiid then too, right?
Yeah.
So Embiid was the one in the winning lineup, not Jokic.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, he was cheaper.
Yeah. So Jokic 77.5, Embiid 75.75, and then Bam dropped 71.5. Now, obviously, the Bam game is by far the best game of those three relative to salary.
Right.
But
if he had been even like 2%
owned,
owned, he's in the winning lineup.
Yeah. Yeah. Nobody had him. Nobody had him.
And
Nobody will
of the
have
0.16% that did have him, they probably had pretty shitty lineups around them if they had Bam.
Yeah. Nobody has the Heat today here against Memphis, and I'm cool with that. I won't be here.
Yeah, I don't really see much. Obviously Bam has a high ceiling. We just saw that. So does Jimmy Butler, but neither guy really showing up for me. I have 4% Jimmy Butler, 6% owned. So pretty much in line with the field there. 2% Hero at no ownership, whatever. Any of those three guys, if they're in like a lineup here and there, you know what you're getting. They're good fantasy producers, but they are pretty much correctly priced and tough to get to.
Yeah, I know we kind of like roll through a lot of these teams very quickly. And
hang
I
on.
just go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say, like, for every one of these teams, everybody that we talk about, if you have like a legitimate starter, a 30-minute a game guy, like that guy is perfectly reasonable to be in whatever lineup. Bam, Butler, Hero, if you want to circle back to whatever these other teams are, all those starters from Houston, starters from the Lakers, Levine, Vooch. If you go to the Knicks, all those, like, all of those guys are totally fine to be in a lineup. There's just no real mechanism to prioritize them over this 50 other dudes that are going to look just like them.
The way I think about it is if you were building a lineup by hand, you're going to start with the best point per dollar values. And you're going to also be trying to get to the guys with the best, highest raw point projections. If you're not one of those, if you're not in one of those two categories, you're not a priority on the slate. You're not somebody that like we're going to spend a lot of time talking about because there's just going to be a lot of other dudes that look like you. There's a lot of guys in the NBA that are good and capable of having a good game. If you're not one of the best point per dollar plays, you're not one of the highest projections, you're just not going to be one of the main pieces of the slate. But if you think about it from the standpoint of like, if you were just hand building a lineup, you start with those value pieces, you put in, whatever high scoring guy you want in that lineup. And then you have one spot left and you have $8,200 at utility. Bam Adebayo, perfectly fine. Jimmy Butler, perfectly fine. But so is like Vooch or Levine or whoever. Like you said, it's just if you're not in one of those two categories, you kind of just look like 10 other people at least. And Memphis, what I was going to say, I am getting the 10% Duncan Robinson at 3,900. May go away, may not. Playing time's been there. 26 minutes last game. No Kevin Love in the rotation opens up those minutes. Wouldn't be mad if I don't have 10% Duncan Robinson, but at 3,900, I get why he's there.
There's only one truly playable person for the Memphis Grizzlies at this moment, and that is obviously Luke Kennard at 17% ownership. No Steven Adams, no Brandon Clark, no John Conchar, no Jake LaRavia, no John Morant, no Derrick Rose, no Xavier Tillman, no Vince Williams. I mean, this is just, they're missing basically the entire team. Biyombo is now the starting center. He's not all that interesting at 5,100. If you want to pay, like Desmond Bane is everything we just said about Jimmy Butler and all of those guys. So is Jaren Jackson Jr. The only guy that I got here is Luke Kennard at 4K. Great day.
Yeah, and I didn't even really get there. I think he's the best point per dollar play from Memphis. I just, he's 17% owned. Makes some sense to me that I'm getting, like Duncan Robinson, for example, at 3,900 and 1/8 the ownership. Also, when Jabari Walker goes away, I'll probably start getting a little bit more Kennard. It's a reasonable value coming off the bench. Played 31.5 minutes last game. That's the most we've seen from him. Typically I think you're expecting mid-20s, but this team is so shorthanded that he can pretty easily play his way into the closing lineup. So he is the guy that I would expect to be getting more of by the time we get the lock. Right now I only have like 6%, but that probably comes up a little bit. The rest of them, like you said, Bane, Jackson, Smart, they're all just sort of their own versions of Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler, Tyler Hero. I'm not getting much Memphis at all.
I got to 18% Kennard, and I think that's totally fine. They just don't have enough real NBA players. Like he has to play.
Right. Yeah, like, and I've been getting a lot of Kennard in general, so I assume that I end up with a bit more. But at 17% owned than 4K against Miami, it's also not crazy to just say, yeah, okay, hopefully Luke Kennard has a bad shooting game. I have 6% Bismack Biyombo at 5,100. At no ownership, I'm fine with that. Like the minutes should be there, but I'm also not going crazy getting to Biyombo.
No, not so much. Also, not a great matchup against Bam. That's not going to be a fun time.
No.
The Detroit Pistons are 12-point underdogs in Milwaukee, 227 total. Pistons are sort of like Memphis at this point. No Bojan Bogdanovic, no Alec Burks, Jalen Duren, questionable. No Joe Harris, no Jaden Ivey, no Isaiah Livers, no Monty Morris, who every day goes by, we forget that he's on this basketball team. 31% ownership coming into a $4,900 Killian Hayes, who has no one to limit his minutes. 14% ownership coming into Asar Thompson at 6,900, who's playing massive minutes with all these dudes out. And then 27% ownership coming into a $4,500 Marcus Sasser for today. He is the guy that I'm getting everywhere. He is my most exposed player for today. I think he's the best play on the slate right now, but I'm just going to throw it to you. How are you handling the Pistons?
Yeah, I mean, he's my highest owned guy right now, too. The Pistons are just so shorthanded. The minutes sort of have to be there. They should get absolutely destroyed in this game, but there's a good chance that means Sasser just plays garbage time also.
He has to, right?
You would think. And so like this is a situation where you're not going into this saying Milwaukee's going to kick the shit out of Detroit. Who's going to get those garbage time minutes? But you're saying, okay, Marcus Sasser is fully in the rotation. If this game's competitive, he's getting minutes. But if the game blows out, he's still probably just getting his minutes. So it's different. Like, I don't want it to come off as, I think they're going to get blown out, so Marcus Sasser looks good in garbage time. It's just like, well, he's probably just playing in the fourth quarter no matter what the score is, which is really nice when you're talking about this god-awful team taking on Milwaukee. So, Sasser looks good. Still a cheap price tag. I'm getting a bunch of Killian Hayes, pretty much in line with the field there. Playing time should be there for him. Played 34.5 against Golden State last time out. We talked about it the other day. The point per minute production isn't great. They were staggering him with Cade Cunningham against Golden State. Cunningham played 40 minutes, so it's not like there was a lot of non-Cunningham minutes to get, but those non-Cunningham minutes are valuable for Hayes, and he's just still pretty cheap. Outside of that, I'm not getting to this team right now. Like you said, Asar Thompson getting ownership, almost 7K. I just am not really getting to him right now. Not getting to Cade. If Duren's out, we have a $4,300 Bagley, which will probably be an issue again. He played 24.5 minutes last game, didn't close as the starter, was absolute dog shit. Probably will be again today, but his price tag also didn't really move. So 4,300, I would still be getting to him at least in some amount. Hopefully not 100% like I did last slate, but I would really just like Jalen Duren to play, so I can just play Sasser, play Hayes, and move on.
Yes. Please, Jalen Duren, just be in this game. This is not a change I'm looking for. Not to mention, this is an 8:00 start, and the Pistons are like the grade A dickheads when it comes to lineup shit. So they might release that starting lineup at 7:59. I mean, they pull more shit than any other team when it comes to starting lineups.
I was honestly surprised that we got confirmation on Duren before that game started.
Same. It never this team. Maybe that was just a Dwayne Casey thing, and it's going to get like a little bit better.
I mean, I assume it was a Dwayne Casey thing,
but holy shit, they've been a pain in the ass.
They were bad with it last year. Like you would get that at 6:56 for a 7:00 tip. When they said when their lineup was supposed to be coming out, and they said, "Oh, our starting center is questionable," I was just like, "Okay, cool. We're going to find out who the starter is at 7:10."
Yeah, and it's going to be neither of the two people you think it
is. James Wiseman.
Holy shit, it's Greg Monroe.
Right.
Yeah, I have 73% Sasser. I just don't know how you get away from it. No matter how you want to project this game, I think he just has to play like 28 plus minutes.
Yeah. So, so like if this game were to just completely get out of hand, what is the closing lineup? Umudi, Roden, Wiseman, Sasser.
I don't know what a Malcolm Cazalone is, but he could be out there.
Is he even on?
He has played.
Okay, because I'll say they had 10 guys active last game with Duren out.
Malcolm Cazalone played 2.6 minutes on the 5th.
So it's probably him, Sasser, Wiseman, Roden, and Moody.
Yeah, probably.
And if it's not Sasser, it's Hayes.
Fucking team is garbage, dude. Yeah, he just kind of has to. They just don't have other dudes. It's pretty easy. Pretty easy today.
Unless they just they decide mid-game that they're just done with Bagley and now he's playing garbage time.
I trust nothing. But yeah, Sasser's a guy I'm going to get infinitely. The worst part for this is I don't really see a path to getting to Cade.
I mean, I don't know that I'd even want to, but
yeah.
I mean,
if the game is competitive, you have to assume that Cade Cunningham is just playing great.
Sure. Yeah. And I have 2% right now, but I mean, that's the case for Cunningham, but it goes back to you can make that case for every player. It's essentially for every quality starter, that is correctly priced, you can make the case, well, if they play well, I really would like to have them.
Yeah.
And that doesn't help you limit, doesn't help you narrow anything down.
No, it doesn't. On the Milwaukee side, this sort of feels like Memphis. Lots of really quality basketball players for the Milwaukee Bucks, but no one more owned than 27% Jay Crowder, which is the name that everybody expected. Chris Middleton is out for today for some injury management. Crowder's been getting the minutes. He's like a 0.75 to 0.8 guy. I got to 25%. He's 3,900 small forward, power forward. He's just like one of the few places that are like quality sub 4K price tag.
Yeah, 3,900, good point per dollar value, 21% chance of being optimal. So 27% ownership's not even really that problematic. I'm getting about 30%. I ran everything before I had actually like looked at the slate, and I saw that I was getting Crowder as one of my highest owned guys, and I'm just like, what is broken in my shit that I'm getting this much Jay Crowder? Like, this is just gonna be completely useless. And then I looked and realized that he just is one of the best point per dollar values on the slate. So I'm getting there, not getting too far above the field or anything, but looks useful. He's the guy I'm getting the most of, obviously, from Milwaukee. I am getting 2x the field on Giannis at 10-5 on DraftKings. Power forward center should destroy this team for however many minutes he needs to play. The reason that he's not a great play is, well, one, we've already talked about just losing production because of Lillard being there. His assist percentage is down. You don't expect him to play as many minutes as most guys north of 10K on a nightly basis, and certainly not when they're double-digit favorites at home against the Pistons G League squad. But it's still Giannis. Like, this dude can score 70 fantasy points in 3 quarters and just end the game. So at 7% owned against this terrible team, I'm perfectly happy getting 2x the field. He's also generally a better play on FanDuel because of a little bit more favorable pricing and just better or different, roster construction on FanDuel.
I don't have any Dame. Clearly could just nuke this Pistons team in a very easy manner, but yeah. I don't.
I mean, we saw Steph start to do it the other day.
Yeah.
But
you gotta get it done in 3 quarters.
Right. Yeah, I don't have Dame either. $200 more than LaMelo. I'm end up getting to LaMelo.
Yeah. I got nothing else here for Milwaukee. Just get on that Jay Crowder bus because that's the one for you today. Nothing wrong with a Jay Crowder chalk day on a 14-game slate. It's exactly where we all want to be. More chalky chalk to talk about. New Orleans Pelicans are 7.5-point dogs in Minnesota, 219 total. The Pels are still without CJ McCollum. They're also without Jose Alvarado, Najee Marshall, and Trey Murphy, but they could be without Herb Jones, who is also questionable. That would create some wild value or potential wild value. But for now, there's only one person to play from the Pelicans. Super obvious. That's going to be Jordan Hawkins, 4,700, shooting guard eligible, 38% owned. Light work on DraftKings. If you play on FanDuel, he's 62% owned. And that's Jordan Hawkins Day again. You got to do it, right?
Yeah, I mean, he was in the starting lineup. We were guessing it was going to be Dyson Daniels. We did our shows last slate. It ended up being Hawkins. He got the start, played a bunch of minutes, had a big game. We've obviously seen his production vary. He had the good game where he shot 2 for 13 from 3. Everybody played him the next day, and he was just absolute garbage. Nobody played him last slate. He goes out 38 minutes, 31 actual points. At 4,700, he just still looks like a good value. He's getting 38% ownership, 28% chance of being optimal. I have about 32% right now. Perfectly fine with that. It is funny, like DraftKings actually kind of dropped the ball on this one, which is why he stands out too. Dyson Daniels is now 5K on DraftKings. Jordan Hawkins still 4,700. So when that is kind of the thing about, it's nice when sites are aggressive with their pricing. I at least personally find that more fun. I like it. When they do miss on somebody, it just makes that guy that much more popular because you have fewer mispriced guys to compete with him. So when they just kind of drop the ball and like say, oh, Dyson Daniels needs a price bump, but Jordan Hawkins doesn't, it makes Jordan Hawkins just be 38% owned.
It just makes me feel like the people at DraftKings also thought Dyson Daniels was going to start and they didn't make the adjustment. They didn't notice either. That's how I felt. Yeah, I have all things Jordan Hawkins. I wish I had some $8,300 shooting guard small forward Brandon Ingram, but I don't really. But if I wanted it, if I was going to get anything else in this game, that's what I want.
Yeah, I would like to get Ingram. Still not. I don't have him either. If Jones is out, I don't know if Matt Ryan starts. I don't know what they do, but
I think it's Daniels at that point.
Yeah. I mean, they went Ryan before, didn't they? When
I think
England
they
was
would
on
go
him?
Daniels for defense, to get somebody out there on
Sure.
Anthony Edwards.
Or they could go Matt Ryan revenge game.
They could. They could. I honestly, I have no idea what Matt Ryan is good at or what he looks
Shooting.
like because of his stupid name. I only picture an NFL quarterback. So
That's kind of what he looks like, I'm pretty sure.
okay, he could like. I'll never know him or understand his game unless he becomes like an all-star level player because I already have a Matt Ryan in my head.
Yeah, he looks like an NBA Matt Ryan.
So if he was Matty Ice, does that make him like Matty Light? I don't think it's premium. There's probably a better Matty Ryan out there somewhere. We've talked enough about the Pelicans. Play Jordan Hawkins in abundance. Play the Minnesota Timberwolves in abundance across the board.
Shout out Brandon Katz for repeating what I said in chat as if I didn't say it.
Yeah, I already got him.
I forgot he existed until right now, and life was a lot better 30 seconds ago.
Bunch of ownership coming into this team. 10% to Gobert, 25 to Reed, 13 to Conley, 15 to Slow-Mo. But the guy that we need to talk about, Anthony Edwards, not getting that much love. Wouldn't mind getting there. We talked about Jaden McDaniels getting a bit of a minutes bump at some point in time. Well, it happened. He played 45 and a half minutes. It was an overtime game. Still call it 40 and a half in regulation their last time out. Hard to imagine he's playing anything less than 30 moving forward. He averaged 30 and a half last season. If you give him 30 at 12% ownership, he's one of the better plays today. And if you think that like just real starter minutes are on the table, he might be the best play that exists today because of small forward $4,200 price tag.
Yeah, I'm 2x the field. I'm happy to see it. I actually, when I ran everything, hadn't realized he played that many minutes last slate, but I was just like, oh, good. I'm finally getting to Jaden McDaniels. I've been wanting to do that. So, probably a day late, but still only projected for 12% ownership. And it just goes back to what you and I had talked about before, that this is a real piece of this team. This isn't, some random wing that just happened to play 40 minutes in regulation last game, but he's probably going to play like 22 or 24 today. Like, this is a real piece of the team. And as long as he is physically able to do it, he's going to be out there playing big minutes. He's only 4,200. He's not a terrible, fantasy producer, even though he's clearly not, the focal point of their offense. So I'm 2x the field on him, which I am very happy with. I am a little under the field on Kyle Anderson. So once again, just getting this situation where 12% ownership to Jaden McDaniels, 15% to Kyle Anderson. So 27% give or take combined. I have 28% combined, but it's 20% to the lower owned McDaniels, 8% to Kyle Anderson. Perfectly fine with me. Happy with that. Mike Conley's cheap, coming in at 4,800. I am under the field on him. He is 13% owned, 7% chance of being optimal. I have about 4% right now, but it is a cheap price tag at 4,800. So there is some value to be had here. Naz Reid pulling the most ownership at 26%. Very good point per minute guy. I'm about half the field at 14%, but power forward eligible, 4,600, getting a clear real part of this rotation anyway, and then just has the potential for more minutes if Gobert or Towns were to get in foul trouble or something. So I understand Naz Reid, good play. Probably won't have 25% of him, but good play.
I wish I didn't have 25%, but I do have 23. I'm doubling the field on Conley. I have 26, but I got the 33% Jaden McDaniels, and I think I'm live to get even more because I have him in for 30 minutes, and I might go to 31.
Right.
And that'll but I couldn't be happier. In this matchup against the Pelicans, I'd be shocked if he's not closing a competitive game and being the person that's guarding Brandon Ingram. Like, that's exactly the point of him. That way Anthony Edwards isn't doing that job.
Yeah, agreed. And also, like, talking about what I'm getting to on Reed and Anderson, all these guys, Jabari Walker, 3,200. If he goes away, I need those 4K guys more. So certainly could be getting, when he goes away, not only will I have room for more power forwards, I'll probably be getting more of the Luke Kennard, Naz Reid, Jaden McDaniels, Kyle Anderson type guys.
Fantastic team to get to today from Minnesota. It's funny that we didn't even mention
Carl Anthony Towns. We didn't even mention the actual good players.
No. I got a very small amount of Towns, but that 8K power forward center range is just stacked everywhere. So it's hard. And then he also hasn't been, he's been weird so far this season. And then I don't have much of Edwards because, like, what do you do with, LaMelo Ball is like right next to him in the same price tier.
Yeah, though, I mean, Edwards does have the shooting guard small forward working for him, but agreed. Like, I have 6% Edwards, which is like 2x the field. I'm at like 2% Gobert, 4% Towns. Pretty much just not getting to those guys too much.
All right, folks, hit that like button to the 750 people that are here live with us right now. It helps. But if you're just listening along throughout the day, that helps too. 4:45 Eastern time, Adam and I will be back for the deeper dive with a lot more information, plowing through these 14 games once again. You don't want to miss that. NBA Live Before Lock then at 6 p.m. They will take you up until 7. And then don't forget, Stokastic.com/avatar. Use our logo on DraftKings and FanDuel and wherever else you play. If you finish in the top 3 of a contest with 5,000 or more entries, you get a month of whatever package you want from us. That's over a $200 value. It costs you nothing to do this. All you have to do, if you end up finishing in the top 3 of a contest of 5,000 or more, tweet that at Stokastic HOF. Let us know. Join our Hall of Fame. Come in and get a package for a month. It's an easy way to try and get behind our paywall. And it costs you $0. Home stretch, you ready?
Yep.
Cleveland Cavaliers are 2.5-point favorites in Oklahoma City. We have a 229 total for this game. On the Cleveland side, Isaac Okoro is out, as is Ty Jerome still. On the OKC side, Q-tag on Ousmane Dieng and Lou Dort. Highest owned guy for Cleveland is 4%. I can't imagine prioritizing a thing from Cleveland.
Nope. Nothing showing up as far as my highest owned guys from the Cavs. Donovan Mitchell, I think. Or, yeah, 4%. Or no, that's the Bulls. Never mind. Yeah, Donovan Mitchell, 4%, I think is my highest owned guy from Cleveland. Yeah. Evan Mobley, 4%, is the field's highest owned guy from Cleveland. This is just another one of those teams like we were just talking about. Obviously, Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, Darius Garland, Jared Allen, they can all have good games, but they're not the best point per dollar plays. They're not the highest projected guys, and so they're not going to get that much ownership.
The highest owned guy for the Oklahoma City Thunder on DraftKings today is 1% owned Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at 10-4. If you want to get to Shai or Jalen Williams or Chet Holmgren, the same way that we mentioned it for the Bulls and the Knicks and 100 other teams, by all means do it. But this is a not great matchup against Cleveland now that Jared Allen is back.
Yeah,
I don't want anything from OKC.
Nothing looking good for me. I actually, skimming through my players, I don't think I actually have an OKC player.
I do not. I have a flat 0.
And to be fair, we don't have a single guy projected for even 1% ownership. Like they will be 1% owned. You know, Shai will be like 1.8 or whatever. But as far as like the actual ownership projection, Shai coming in at the top at 0.7.
Fun game to watch in terms of like actual talent. You know, you get Garland and Mitchell and Mobley and Allen, all these young dudes from the Thunder. Like, that's fun. Not going to see much of this bad boy, though. Not going to have anything to sweat. It's like, oh, gotta pay attention here. I got one Shai Gilgeous-Alexander lineup that I've got going on here. Why would I do that when I can go watch the 30% of my lineups that contain Jay Crowder?
Yeah. Speaking of, I need to remember to order a Fire Stick. So like I have League Pass, I have the TVs, but I have LG TVs which don't have League Pass on them.
Okay.
Yeah, I remembered to use like the DraftKings thing, and I signed up and I went to, for the first time this season, like I told you, I hadn't like watched at all. I finally was like, all right, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to watch basketball tonight. And I turned on TV and was like, shit, I forgot I had this problem.
I had the lockout problem last night. I'm going to watch some hockey immediately. I didn't even realize that I was clicking on the Hurricanes. I had a Sabres stack. So I was like, nice, let's watch this. Just so happens it's the Hurricanes. I was just like, fuck, should I just drive to Raleigh right now and catch the third period?
I'd forgotten I had the NBA problem because last year I solved it by just getting League Pass through my cable package.
Okay.
But then this year with DraftKings paying for it, I did it through League Pass and then remembered why I had done it through my cable before.
Toronto Raptors are 5.5-point dogs in Dallas, 224 total. Interesting spot here for Toronto. Precious Achiuwa. We haven't heard that name in a minute, but he is questionable. Yeah. Sure did. Great producing there, Jordan.
I'm only doing shows with Jacob going forward.
Yeah, me too. Get rid of this Jordan Klein character. Anyway, Raptors. I lost my entire train of thought to shoddy production work. It really makes things difficult. Precious Achua may be back. Everybody else that's normally out is out. Highest owned guy on Toronto is somehow still Jakob Poeltl at 3%. I'm not playing anybody from Toronto. They look actively bad.
They do. Yeah, like Barnes, Poeltl, and Anunoby, Siakam, sure, they're starting. They'll play big minutes. Prices are just correct on these guys. I'm having trouble getting to any of it. 4% Poeltl for me, 4% Anunoby. Yeah, this team does not look great.
No. Nope. So skip. And this is also going to be an easy skip, although at least mildly talkable. Dallas Mavericks, we have a Q tag on Maxi Kleba. Doesn't really affect anything for today. It's, do you want to play 12K Luka Doncic or 9K Kyrie Irving? With the amount of value that we have on the slate, playing a 12K Luka Doncic is reasonable. A lot of the other good pay-up options are centers and center only. So I do think that creates an interesting dynamic of an unowned Luka Doncic at a spot that isn't really pulling that kind of value. That said, I did not get there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem is just that he looks so much worse than Jokic and to some extent Embiid. Jokic, obviously, you have a long track record of Jokic being a 1.7 fantasy point per minute guy, and he's playing without Jamal Murray. Embiid, at least from what we've seen this season, looks fantastic. And then you have Luka out there with Kyrie, where Luka's still very good, but you're talking about like a 1.56, 1.57 fantasy point per minute guy when Kyrie is active. And he's also more expensive than both Jokic and Embiid. So it becomes really, really tough to get to him. And then on top of that, like you said, there is guard value as well. So it just becomes tough to get to Luka. You're never wrong if you play 1% on Luka in large field tournaments, but it's just probably not going to be somewhere I get to in my lineups.
Yeah, wouldn't mind it, that's for sure.
Yeah. If I somehow had 10% Luka, cool.
For the Golden State Warriors, I messed up.
Also, sorry. Not only do you have guard value like Sasser and Hayes and some other guys, it's also LaMelo Ball at $3,100 less than Luka.
Yeah, that's the real issue here. To a lot of people.
Yeah, to put it in context, we have LaMelo Ball right now as the fourth highest projected guy on the slate with 55.3 DraftKings points. Luka is third with 57.6. So, yes, obviously there's a huge ownership discount there, but it also does, like we talk about a lot, it doesn't come down to one player. So you have to consider, sure, I can get 1% on Luka versus 50% on LaMelo. Cool. Hopefully LaMelo has a bad game, Luka wins. But you're also then $3,100 short for the rest of your lineup that, other people were able to do better things.
Draymond Green is questionable for personal reasons against the Denver Nuggets today. Warriors are 3.5-point dogs in Denver. Jamal Murray still out. Draymond is the only guy getting any ownership for the Warriors at 2%. I will have zero of this team. Unless Draymond ends up out, at which point maybe you can squeeze out a little $4,400 Dario Saric, but there are no priorities here.
Yep, I'm not getting to Golden State. Like you said, if Draymond's out, potentially opens up Kuminga or Saric or makes Looney look a little bit better, I guess, but he's already 5,700. Assuming Draymond's in, I have nothing from Golden State.
That was quick. Denver side's going to be a little bit different. We've got 18% ownership coming into Nikola Jokic. This is where I'm getting to. So you had the bigger chunk of Embiid. I have 39% Jokic right now at 11.7. Please give me all of that Nikola Jokic. I am down for that. 1.81 fantasy points per minute on the season. And we have no Jamal Murray, which means Nikola Jokic is going to happily do a little bit more. If you want to get some Aaron Gordon or KPJ or MPJ rather, I think that's totally fine. But I don't want anything else from Denver in any sort of volume other than Nikola Jokic. Give me the true MVP.
Yeah, I'm with you on Jokic. 18% ownership. I have about 20%. So I have similar amounts Jokic and Embiid right now. Obviously could just turn into more Jokic. That's what the field is doing. But that ownership gap between him and Embiid is really interesting to me, where he's 18% owned. Embiid was like 5 or 6. I'm really happy with the way my stuff looks now, where I'm still getting to Jokic, but I'm also just over the field on Embiid. Jokic is clearly the top projected guy on the slate, though. Price tag is very reasonable. 5% ownership coming into MPJ at 6,500. I'm pretty much in line with the field there with 6%. Aaron Gordon getting 2% ownership. Certainly has the potential to have bigger games without Murray, just because he is good at everything on the floor. So if you need him to step up and do it, he can. Not getting much ownership. Price tag is pretty much correct. MPJ and Gordon, I think, are guys that are sort of just last piece in. they can certainly have big games, but they're not projected that well for their salaries. Jokic is the only guy that I would be prioritizing from Denver.
Any guess what the line is on FanDuel Sportsbook for Nikola Jokic to have a triple-double?
Even money?
Even money on the dot, plus 100.
Yeah, not looking at it, I'm that good.
Yeah, he's so good, dude. He's so good. He's so good. Yeah, otherwise I won't have much else. But yeah, I was very happy to see 2x the field on Jokic. Sign me up for that. Ultimately, I'd like to just have a lot of Jokic and Embiid and run back Monday. But that would have been the most interesting game to watch if Jamal Murray were healthy. And if like we knew Draymond was in. Big fan of Warriors Nugs there, but looks like it's going to be Boston Philly as the premier game. All right. Final game of the night, folks. Portland Trailblazers, 7.5-point dogs in Sacramento, 220 total. Oh, Portland. This is a team that is just, they're in a bit of shambles here. No Scoot, no Simons, and now no Robert Williams for what I would imagine is the entire season. We got crazy minutes out of some of these dudes in the last game. I don't think you can project someone like Malcolm Brogdon to play 39 every night, but he is the highest owned guy for Portland at 15%. Jabari Walker is second at 9. I'm not sure I feel the same way about that, but he's certainly on the path to being that kind of guy. Let's start with Brogdon here, though. 8,200 point guard, shooting guard. I gave him 34 minutes because he's Malcolm Brogdon. I don't feel too comfortable going much over that number, at which point, like, I like him, but not a lot.
Yeah, I mean, we have him at 36 minutes, and I'm still under the field using that. I got like 6% on Brogdon, and I think it's just the price. I think Brogdon still looks good at 8,200, assuming he is playing, mid to upper 30s. He's going to be able to do whatever he wants with, offensively with this team. But he's just in a price range now where you have so many other good options. And so, we have him with an 11% chance of being optimal. That's perfectly fine, a little bit below his ownership. But it's just always easier to find pivots in this like 8K range off of relatively popular guys than it is when you're talking about cheaper players, because there's just more players with the same range of outcomes. So Brogdon looks good. I just don't have, quite as much of the field right now because I am getting to popular guys like Sasser, LaMelo, Hayes, Crowder, at Hawkins. And so it starts to become like, okay, well, do I want to then put another, 15% on guy in here, or on a 14-game slate, can I just find a 5% on guy that can do the same thing as Malcolm Brogdon? So looks good. Just happens to be a guy that's getting squeezed out from me a little bit. 5% ownership coming into Ayton. I am 2x the field there. I like that. 10% Ayton at 7K looks pretty good in this spot. Shadon Sharp at 7,600, shooting guard, small forward. Only getting 3% ownership right now. I have 14% of him. He's my highest owned guy other than Jabari Walker right now on the Blazers.
I don't hate that at all. I'll be interested to see what the information looks like for Walker moving forward. But yeah, for sure. I only got to 3% Sharp, but that positionality, his minutes really are going to be 37, 38, 39 a night. Yeah. They just don't have enough other people left.
And like, he's going to play a big role offensively too. It's not like Malcolm Brogdon's just going to come out there and be a 40% usage guy or something and take it all away from Sharp. That position, that ownership, that salary, I really like getting to Sharp coming off of a 41-minute game last time out. Obviously if that ownership comes up, he still looks good, but not as good. But yeah, right now he's my highest owned guy from this team, and other than Parker, or other than Walker rather. And I'm perfectly happy with that. As far as Walker goes, and why I'm getting to him, he's $3,200, power forward center. We have him projected right now for 17.5 DraftKings points. That may come down, which would cause my ownership to come down. We also
have him
project. What'd you say?
How many minutes?
That's what I was trying to find now. 20.5.
Okay.
So like if we walk that back to 18, he played 16 last game. But Robert Williams was in. If we were to walk that back to like 18, then he's projecting for 16 DraftKings points or something. But we also have him at 9% owned. So there's a good chance that by the time we get to lock, one of three things have happened. One, just more value has opened up and Jabari Walker doesn't look as good. Two, we've lowered his projection a little bit. Or three, we've increased his ownership projection. Any of those things would make Jabari Walker show up less for me. But as he's projected now, he would be a play that I'm happy to get to at $3,200 and 8% owned, knowing that it's getting me more Embiid. It's getting me slightly over the field on Jokic. It's getting me over the field on Giannis. It's getting me plays that I like. So when I've referenced him a lot throughout the show, it's not that I think he's a mistake with the information we have right now. It's that I just think things change by the time we get to lock.
Yeah. So he had been playing just alongside of Robert Williams. I don't know what the next path is going to be. Do they just go Moses Brown straight back up center right into the Robert Williams role and call it a day, and Jabari Walker doesn't change anything?
They could.
Yeah.
But like even last game, Robert Williams only played 11 minutes last game.
Yeah.
Walker played 16. Does it like I don't think Moses Brown steps into the 22-minute Robert Williams role.
No, I gave Moses Brown 14 minutes. Might be a little aggressive. I don't know. I mean, we're obviously not going to know this stuff. 3K price tag. Like Moses Brown is probably not too far away. Like is a DeAndre Ayton injury away from becoming like a really sneak piece.
Yeah, the problem with Brown compared to Walker though is that he's center only.
And we have no idea if he even steps on the floor.
Right. Jabari Walker, if he were center only at 3,200, projecting for 17 DraftKings points, you're just ignoring him. But that power forward piece is really nice.
Yeah, like Moses Brown didn't play the day that Robert Williams also didn't play. Jabari Walker played 16 minutes that day as well, but we still had Scoot at that point in time, so slightly different.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like I think it's likely that, so like I said, right now we have Jabari Walker at 20 and a half minutes. I think that probably just gets walked back to like 18, and that solves my problem.
Sacramento Kings, still no De'Aaron Fox. This team is awful without De'Aaron Fox, truly terrible. They are 27th in net rating at this point, negative 7.6, 26th in offense, 22nd in defense. But yeah, lucky them. 5% ownership to JaVale McGee as the high mark for the Sacramento Kings right now. So that's why I didn't mind Moses Brown. I won't be playing anybody from Sacramento.
JaVale McGee is my highest owned guy at 6%.
Same. I have it at 5, but
yeah, I have 4% Kevin Huerter. I think that is the extent of my Kings.
Yep, they look awful.
Yeah, Kevin Huerter, I do think is interesting just because we haven't seen a big game from him yet, but he is capable of filling some of the production that De'Aaron Fox is leaving out there. And he's the only guy whose salary isn't like moving. It's actually gone down, I think. I think he was like 53 or 5,400 last game. He's 5,100 now. Malik Monk's up to 6K. Yes, he can get hot and be a great play, but he's up to 6K. Keegan Murray's still sitting at 6,500. Mitchell's still sitting at 4,800. So Kevin Huerter is the one that I kind of look at, and it's just like that price tag is just like stagnant and actually dropping a little bit. And there is a Kevin Huerter game in there with De'Aaron Fox out.
Yes, there is. I just don't know if you can get to that on a 14 gamer, but like I'd like to be there.
Right. Like he's 3% owned, 4% chance of being optimal. I have 4%. That's all makes perfect sense to me. But it's just, if you told me I had to, I mean, I guess if you told me I had to play one king, maybe it's McGee just because of the price. But like, probably if you tell me I have to play a king in a lineup, it would be Kevin Huerter at 5,100.
Hell of a slate today, man. This is gonna be a long day. What do you got coming out after this?
Article talking about the best payoff options and a video using the lineup generator, and I'll be back for the deeper dive. And also to answer the question, what happened to Sacramento last year? Did they overachieve? Yes, they overachieved. They were healthy the entire season. Also, De'Aaron Fox is out, and so the Kings are a horrible defensive team and a great offensive team, but they are great offensively because of the De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis pick and roll being essentially impossible to stop. When you take out De'Aaron Fox and replace him with Davion Mitchell, they are now a shitty defensive team and a shitty offensive team.
Yes, they are. Yeah, I'm not a believer in the Kings, like in terms of their ceiling. But when they're at full strength, like they're going to be a really solid regular season team because Sabonis I'm a believer in their
offense when they're healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. So am I. No doubt about it. Contenders videos from me will be out shortly, as will my prize picks. You don't want to miss those. 4-0 on Monday. Thanks to Jordan for being the producer. Kinda. I don't know. It's fine, I guess. Thanks to Vivid Picks for being the sponsor of the show. We'll see you guys at 4:45. Let's have some fun tonight, everybody. Talk to you later. Peace.